On the show this week, I'm joined by Katja Roth-Pellanda. I'm here in Zurich to record with Katja, who is Group General Counsel at Zurich Insurance, where she manages a team of circa 700 lawyers in the legal function. Huge. So a massive role. Delighted that she's taken the time to share her lessons. It was great to hear how she's moved from, her first in-house position was at Novartis in the pharmaceutical industry, obviously really heavily regulated, and she's moved into an equally heavily regulated sector, but a real switch in sectors. Interesting to hear how she's done that. Sounds like previously was very focused on delivery, on the legal function of being a private practice lawyer, and she spoke about how she's flipped her mindset and really has gone about marketing herself and giving herself credit for the work that she does, and really seeking credit for it. So some really interesting stuff to learn and apply to your own. We also speak about some of the recognition that the legal team has had this year in the Financial Times, recognition for some of the collaborative efforts that's doing. And really interested to hear if others do this, but they have a secondment program with another in-house legal team at UBS, which unless I've had my head buried in the sand, it's something that I've not heard of previously, and really interesting. So we'll dive in. Hi Katja, welcome to Lessons I Learned in Law.
Hi, thanks a lot for the invitation. Happy to be here.
Thank you for coming along. And so you were in Zurich. It's my second time visiting, but you were saying before we were recording you walked here from the office?
Yes, I walked here from the office. It's a very nice walk, around 30 minutes, and It's lovely weather today. So sun is shining. It was an excellent break.
Nice.
And gather a little bit my thoughts.
Gather your thoughts, yeah. Because we're jumping in and ad-libbing through the lessons just now. So I've given a brief introduction. If you don't mind, if you could share a bit of an overview of your current role and share that with us, please.
Yes, absolutely. It's my pleasure. I joined the Zurich Insurance Group around 4.5 years ago. We are a vertically integrated legal team of approximately 500 to 700 lawyers. We are a global team. We have people from Australia, in APAC, in Europe, in North America, California, and LATAM. We are responsible for the legal advice on every legal topic which occurs at Zurich Insurance. We also are responsible for the regulatory relationship, for the governance topics, for investigation and litigation topics, and also the corporate secretarial work is sitting within the legal function.
Right, so broad house, broad church.
Yes.
Excellent. And she joined four and a half years ago. Was that pre-COVID times?
It was exactly on the 1st of April 2020. So I more or less joined with the start of COVID. So I joined remotely, and I worked remotely for maybe 1.5 years.
What a baptism of fire. How in that type of leadership position, how does one navigate that remotely?
I think it was not too difficult, honestly, because we had Teams and we've done a lot of virtual calls, videos, and I think it was much more easier than before because you see or saw each other on the screen. I think that helped a lot. And because the team is so dispersed and diverse, it was easier than if I would have traveled around, because then I would have lost a lot of time being on planes, and with that we just had many calls.
Yeah, perfect. You got to build those relationships. Nice. And you're from Switzerland?
Yes. I'm from Switzerland. I studied in Switzerland. I wrote a PhD at the University of Zurich about the organization of the board of directors. I always wanted to go far away, but I never managed for work. I studied in Paris and in London and in Stanford, but I only worked in Switzerland so far.
Okay, nice. But your global role.
Absolutely, I have a global role now. Before that, I worked for more than 10 years in a Swiss law firm, and for 5 years with Novartis Pharmaceutical, which is a global company headquartered in Basel in Switzerland.
Yeah. Yes, nice. So we'll start and we'll jump in with lesson one, if you don't mind sharing that with us.
We were joking a little bit before about the lessons which I wanted to speak about. Look, for me, I think that the first lesson I learned quite late, maybe in my career, that you need to be really curious and you need to step out of your boundaries. Mm-hmm. So when I had my first in-house role, I started as a single contributor, having rather a narrow field of responsibility, but I realized that certain other areas of the company didn't have the legal support they should have. And I just started to advise outside of my area of responsibility. I also took on many tasks where others thought, oh, she will for sure fail. And right. I think I just somehow had the courage then to take on this additional task, and this helped me a lot to grow and broaden my horizon.
Nice. So the curiosity, would you describe it, are you naturally curious in other parts of your life? And that was something that you said
yes,
you learned later.
I think actually, yeah, I'm naturally curious, and I always want to do something else or see something different. Yeah. So my husband and my family, I have 2 children, they sometimes, they have to handle it if mom wants to do something else. So at the moment we are debating highly where we should go on holidays, because so far we most of the time have spent our holidays in summer in Europe at the beach, and I think now it's really time to do some more adventurous stuff.
Yeah, kids are get a little bit older now.
Yeah, so exactly, older, and it's easier. So last year we have been in Japan.
Oh, nice.
And this year we are still debating what we are going to do. Yes, but I like diversity. I like to do different things. Sometimes I'm maybe a little bit impatient, which goes together, I would assume, if you're curious and wants to have change. So that's maybe the downside.
Yeah. Okay. So, and what, with that first move in-house into that individual contributor role, what spurred you on to move in-house from being in a law firm?
I think for me it was really important to see the work from the start until the end, because if you are working in a law firm, I mean, it's super cool because you really go in depth on legal topics, which I adore. I always wanted to become a lawyer, but you don't see what the company really is doing with the advice or why the advice was needed for the company. So I really like to be there from the start and until the end. But what I personally also liked, I mean, after having worked for more than 10 years in a law firm and always advising lawyers, I also really liked the change, because if you're working in-house, your clients are not lawyers. Your clients is everybody from the company, because you get in touch with finance, with communication, with the business. So that's what really attracted me in addition, because I'm not only want to advise lawyers, I also wanted to see the diversity of clients.
Yeah, and the different stakeholders. Nice. Yeah. And corporate, you were a corporate lawyer?
I'm a corporate M&A lawyer, employment law. I had the luck that in Switzerland the law firms are not so specialized as maybe abroad, because Switzerland is so small and we don't have international law firms, so it's really the local law firms. And I worked for someone, Rolf Watter, who had a broad area of responsibility, so I have done more or less everything, I would say: capital market, M&A transaction, employment law, litigation, arbitration. So I had a broad basis, which I think also helped me afterwards to grow.
Really helpful for in-house, right? Where you're maybe not a subject matter expert in-house and doing broad work. Maybe not being put off by something new that comes up as well. And what was that first role, that first move in-house? Was that Novartis?
My first in-house role was with Novartis. I was responsible for the AGM, for the corporate governance report, for the employment contracts with the senior management. Corporate law was my main topic. And as said, I took then on additional roles, sometimes roles which no one was interested. So first someone retired and his role has been the legal support of the foundation. So I started to become responsible for the foundation which Novartis had. And that was honestly at the time where sustainability didn't play the role. So no one wanted that job. But with the time, then the chairman and the CEO become members of the board of trustees of this foundation. Then the situation was a little bit different. But so I think I had an early head start also in the sustainability work, which helped me also afterwards for my career. And then someone else retired again, and I became, when Vas Narasimhan became the CEO, I became, in addition to my legal role, I became the corporate secretary for the EXCO.
Okay.
So I wrote the minutes for the EXCO. And that was very interesting for me because Vas Narasimhan, he really focused on leadership. So that was an important part for him as well. He built his team. And I was not a member of the EXCO, not at all. But I was nevertheless included at the team exercises, when a coach came. And so I learned really a lot on that perspective as well. And I think this leadership experience, coaching, helped me then to build my own team at Zurich afterwards.
Nice. So moving from a sort of smaller law firm, or like a Swiss
national law firm. It was not a small from a Swiss perspective, but from an international perspective,
from that,
it was small.
From a national law firm into a beast like Novartis. Yeah. How do you sort of learn to navigate that type of environment?
I like the change. So I didn't have. Where I still struggle nowadays with big companies, they are sometimes very complicated and sometimes it's not easy to implement. So I think that's the difficulties. Otherwise, moving from a national law firm who advised international client to an international client is not, I didn't find it difficult. But nevertheless, if many people are involved in a project, if you have a committee who needs to discuss something and decide on something, it's much more, you need to navigate much more and need much more your influential skill than when you're sitting in a law firm and writing a memo.
Yeah. I think that's really important. That there's that advocacy across the business, and the committees and people and people having.
But I mean, on the good side, it's also a lot more collaboration maybe than in law firm because you need to work together to get something done. So that's then maybe the positive aspect of big companies, besides many others.
So curiosity, is that something you try and instill across your team, or you look for within members of your team?
Yeah, absolutely. We try to influence or to have this also in the legal team. We had established various initiatives to foster curiosity. So, we do the usual ones. We have secondments from other regions to the headquarters or vice versa. We also try to have secondments with the business. We have a secondment program with the UBS, the Swiss bank. We also try to do swaps. So we really try many different things to keep people curious. We have established a pro bono program with an external law firm where we want to support NGOs outside of Zurich or NGOs. We do a lot, but not everybody's interested.
Well, so it's like, I suppose beside the day job, but I guess you want to be doing your day job in a curious manner that you're learning and picking things up and exploring things. I think it's like, for me in recruitment, it's something that I think is the biggest. I think it's any professional, like it's the curiosity and just being interested in the thing that you're doing and the people and trying to learn more. How do you look for it in some? How do you assess someone on whether they're curious? Like if you're interviewing or looking for someone, because I would love to know the answer.
I wanted to say I would love to know the answer from you as well. For me, it's the way how people react if I ask questions, or whether they also ask questions back and want to understand what is important for us as a legal function at Zurich. Unfortunately, I don't have a recipe. For me, it's a lot also my gut feeling. Maybe that's not really professional, or you would say I shouldn't do that. But it's really just find out in the discussion what are the interests of the person. Does she likes to do different things, or is she someone or he someone who... if you have a team, of course, you need both. You cannot have only people who are curious and want to do constantly something different. You also need to have people who like what they are doing, are very good in that, and are happy with that. You need to have Yeah, it's about the diversity within the team.
Yeah, that's true. When you've got that size of team, and you need everyone can't be pulling in the same or aiming for the same thing.
No, just also to spark a little bit the ideas and the curiosity, and sometimes it's a little hint about something which then you can create out of it a thought. And I think that's what I want to foster, really, that people try to think outside of the box, also learn what our peers are doing. I'm very interested to hear what other GCs are doing, whether they have great ideas and get inspiration also from others.
Yeah, no.
Copy with pride sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. There's no marking downs for plagiarism on that front. But and you spoke about secondees between Zurich and UBS.
Yeah.
How does I've maybe not looked for it, but I've not been aware of between two.
Yeah, we just Barbara Levy and myself, we came both at the same time to the conclusion that you don't have always possibility to grow your people within your teams because there might not be the right opportunity or someone is not mobile. And then we were looking for opportunities how we can get inspired or see different things. And so we have people we don't do it in every location, but we do it in Switzerland. We have started now also in APAC, where people from us go for 3 months to UBS and vice versa.
Cool.
And because we are both financial industries, but we are not competitor, so that's something which can be organized quite easily.
Right. What are the risks in that? Is there not
I mean, we are
NDAs
not allowed to hire those people.
There
is an unsolicited. But otherwise, I don't think that there is a huge risk involved. We also sometimes have secondees from law firms. That's something which is quite common.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm obviously aware of that more than the other, but I think that's really interesting. Because I don't think it's not something that I've seen as commonplace unless I'm walking around with my eyes shut.
I don't know. I am. We just started with
it.
Exactly. We just started with it. It's for us. It's a little bit more challenging because we only have 80 people or 60 people in Switzerland, while they are much bigger in Switzerland. So let's see how long we can keep it.
Yeah, nice. And like learning from other general counsel. So are you part of networks and groups?
Yes, I'm part of the European General Counsel Association, and we have a network here in Switzerland as well, where we meet each other. What I also now want to do, but it's not yet set in stone whether it works, but I reached out to one of my peers in Switzerland from a completely different business area, and we want to do a leadership meeting together, I asked whether they would be interested, because I think also you can learn something from a legal function outside of the financial world, because they might be doing things similar or differently. And see what.
So outside of sector,
outside of the sector, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you've moved sectors.
Yes.
Clearly, quite a drastic change. So there must be learnings. How was that switching?
Yeah, I think both are global companies, both are regulated companies in a way, so there are many similarities. What fascinated me with my current employer, Zurich Insurance, is that to be able to provide insurance to the society, to people, you need to apply a very holistic approach. Insurance companies, they need to take into account what's happening from a geopolitical situation, climate, societies. So I think that's what really attracted me to join Zurich Insurance, because it's really holistic. You need to know what's going on in the world. Yeah. I mean, you can never know it, but at least you need to try.
A few changes in the last week or so.
Yes, and also climate and sustainability, of course, plays for us a really important role as an insurance company.
It must be, insurance sector must be really reflective of everything that's going on in the environment around it, right?
Exactly.
Cool. So we'll move on to lesson 2.
Lesson 2. Yeah, exactly. Maybe lesson 2 for me is that for a long time, I just focused on my work. And I thought if my work is excellent, I will progress. This will be recognized. And I think that was to a certain extent a mistake. I was seen a little bit as the working bee or the Duracell rabbit,
Okay.
which is not exactly a compliment.
And this was your nickname? Was this your nickname, or was it?
I don't know. I
You
just
just
heard at one
self-named.
point. Yeah, no, it's not self-named. I wouldn't say it's favorable. But I really worked a lot. I loved my work, but I never focused on marketing myself for the work I have done. I think I was very strategic in my advice with the clients, but I was not necessarily strategic for my career. And I think that's something which I would give as an advice, that you early on also focus that you are being recognized and visible as the strategic thinker you are, and not just only as the working bee who you can give everything and handles with everything.
Yeah, you could be commoditized at that, can you? If you're just doing if you're head down and fulfilling the function.
And I think communication storytelling plays an important role, and it's not only about writing the legal advice. It's really about how you want to be perceived and what is important to you as a leader or as a personality, and sharing this more proactively with your team, with your bosses.
Yeah. When was your light bulb moment for that? When did it the click that you needed to be more aware of this in marketing?
I think the click for me was when I wanted to become a partner at a law firm, which I wasn't being elected for, for various reasons, not at the point in time when I wanted to. So that was for me the reason why I thought I need to change something.
Do you see that as a symptom of like a law firm lawyer and like associate level, where you are very much measured by your output or your measurable output, and then it gets to the point where it's partnership and the sales and the marketing and management and all those things that make a partner, they come into play? Or
yes, I think that's the point where the moment in time where it comes into play. I mean, it might also be, hopefully it has changed now, but at that time I would say it was also more difficult if you're married and you have children. It was just still a little bit challenging in Switzerland. Right. Hopefully it has changed now.
Yeah, well, I think outside of Switzerland as well, I think it's something that's spoken about, and there's good noises around what's happening, but whether it still is I think it's certainly still something that is a consideration for people.
Yeah. I think it's much easier in international companies because of the diversity which is there anyhow. So it's much more respected, I would say. But in local law firms, I have a feeling that it's still very challenging. Some month ago, we had an initiative where some of the female GCs in Switzerland spoke with local law firms, and we also have done a research how many equity partners there are, and sometimes there are between 2% and 5%, which is really a very low number.
Flicking yourself to sort of be, or flipping it to being, I think everyone's a salesperson. Like everyone, you have to sell yourself.
Maybe you're not born as it, but you need to a certain extent. I think you need to become it to a certain extent for the benefit of yourself and of the team you are leading. Yeah. But of course, with the work you're doing. So
who's your target audience when you're now thinking about, or through your career, how am I perceived? How am I being perceived, and how am I putting myself forward in the best way to be considered for opportunities, or to be like to have new things come across my my desk?
I think it's maybe one part is speak about what you are doing and be more transparent with what you're doing, more vocal about what you're doing, and not only with the person for whom you have to deliver, but like in the exco, speak about what the legal function is doing, or in the board of directors, go there and speak about the transformation you are under, just explaining what you are doing. So it's not like saying you're the hero for XY, but just be transparent about the journey you are on and the legal team is on. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And that's sufficient.
Yeah. Standing you have to be, you have to put yourself forward. And again, is that something that you, within your reports, 11 direct reports, did you say?
Yes, around 11, yeah.
Is it something you, again, encourage?
Yes, I very much encourage. I mean, we are quite lucky at Zurich Insurance that the general counsels, the local general counsels, they are on the exco of the every region and the countries, so they can be really influential. They can provide proactive advice that helps a lot. But yes, we try to be much more vocal about the work we are doing.
Yeah.
And it has positive sides, but it can also have downsides, because if something goes wrong, it's also more visible that you have been involved. I'm very happy with that, but it's just like have a seat at the table, say what you think about something, and take the consequences and the responsibilities afterwards, the good ones and the bad ones.
Yeah. And I guess being them being on the execo at a local level, they must have a voice on things that are not legal not legal in a strict sense, but things that are outside of the realms of what a legal function does, and exposed to the whole.
That's the aim, and it depends a little bit on the situation where the company is in it and what are the focus areas. But it could be with regard to sustainability or to culture topics, big transaction.
Yeah.
There are different topics where you can, I think, add value outside of the core legal function. And
you were included in the top 15 in-house lawyers by the Financial Times this year. Congratulations! What was the work that that put you into that position? What were the sort of projects, the main projects that were highlighted?
Yeah, I think what put also on me in that position, it was not only me, also the team.
Yeah.
We won the People and Skills Award, which I think is really great. I would say that one of the reasons why we got these 2 awards was because we really tried very strategically from the start. We gave ourselves a mission, a purpose: enable, create, protect together. Then we thought about what is important for us as a legal function, what is our strategy for the next 3 years. We built global focus groups on important topics for Zurich and the legal function. One was ESG, one was talent development, one was smart risk taking. And we really tried to build through these global focus groups one legal function. We also established that we have twice a year a GC exchange. We have around 40 local GCs. Right. They meet virtually twice a year and have some crisis scenarios on important topic. We once had a cyber attack, shareholder activism, or interaction with the regulators. So we really try to build one legal team and share knowledge and experiences much more proactively as it has been done in the past, because I'm a very huge believer that the 700 people within the legal function, they have similar problems, similar challenges, and we should leverage what we know already in the company. And before I joined, this was not the focus of the legal team. Yeah, right. So I think that was something which for sure I hope we have done rightly. And after now the first 3 years where we focused on people and culture, we now focus more on performance, and the idea is to lead the legal function as a business unit. It's said very easily, but it's not that easily being implemented.
What does that mean to you?
So we start now with the budget. We will implement, or we are implementing an e-billing. We will have one global budget, which we didn't have in the past. So it starts with the financials. It's also, we are thinking about establishing KPIs. It's very difficult for lawyers to establish KPIs, and we don't want to have KPIs like 50 regulatory filing or something like that, because that's not, don't want to be measured by numbers in this way. But we really think about, I mean, we have some KPIs for litigation and arbitration. How many have we settled? How many have we won? What have been the conditions for these settlements? What we also start to do a little bit is capability planning. We don't want, as in law firms, to bill every 5 minutes. But I just want that the teams are focusing on more. What do we need as a team? How much work in general will be required during the year? That the teams also think more like business people and have their own business plan, which then also helps if we need more FTEs or if we need more budget. Because in the past, I would say legal functions just said, oh, we have an awful lot of work and we need more FTEs, we need more money, and we are great. But I think that's no longer sufficient.
They need to justify the additional headcount and go with that.
Just also change a little bit the thinking of the lawyers to become more business orientated. And I think then afterwards also our advice is maybe more business related than before.
Right. And who have you modelled like that? Like, so you've inherited a function at Zurich. Who have you, like, where have you looked for advice and taken things in terms of coming up with the strategy and the vision for your?
We spoke a lot with the peers at Zurich Insurance. We do frequently stakeholder surveys. So we try to be very close to the business and hear from them what their needs are. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah. Nice.
To really understand also in which status the company is. Is it a growth? Is it more simplification? Because I think also as a legal function, you need to adapt to the status where the business is in at the moment in time. We never should stand still. We need to transform and learn also from the business what are their needs, and they change. It's not always the same.
Right. Excellent. We'll move on to your third and final lesson.
Maybe my third recommendation would be then to be resilient. I think that's something which we lawyers really is very important for us. We cannot always be loved. We need to say no if it's needed. That's something which I have been asked quite frequently when I joined. People wanted to know, but can we also say no to something? Yes, of course. We have to say no if it's really important. And then we might not be loved by the business, but that's part of our job. I think resilience, being a lawyer, is maybe my third lesson.
Where have you had in your career had to be resilient and call upon?
I mean, there are various instances, honestly. I could not pinpoint to one, but there are situations where you really clearly need to be resilient and say, like, it's not working like that, and be firm.
And you draw, like, within like having those red lines and boundaries. Is that do you feel you've evolved as a lawyer through your career in terms of where those red lines sit and what's
I mean, the red lines is always the last solution. If there is really no mitigation action which is possible, no alternative, no way of doing something differently. I think that's really very important. I mean, we always need to look for alternative solutions, how we can mitigate the risk. And only if there is really nothing else, there is a red line. But I think the red line also depends. I mean, there are clearly no-goes. We need to be compliant. I'm a lawyer, so don't get me wrong. But the amount of risk a company is willing to take depends also where the company is.
Yeah, of course. And where and what the downside is, I guess, on the risk. Cool. And you mentioned the values or the vision. I can't remember the word you used, but the 3 or 4 values that you
enable, create, protect together.
So is that specific to the legal team?
That was specific to the legal team. That's a little bit how we started. We wanted to have our own motto.
Yeah.
And that's what we choose. Maybe if I look back, I mean, when I joined Zurich from Novartis, my previous boss told me, but when I asked her for advice, she said to me, think about what your function will be known after 5 years. What do you want the function to be known?
Great.
And that was a little bit the basis of the thinking behind giving us these 4 terms. If I look back, or if we might look at it again in 1 or 2 years, maybe I would rather make a sentence out of it to give a little bit more guidance. It was one of the pillars which also, coming back to communication and marketing, I wanted the legal function having something which others can look at and say, our legal function stands for these 4 terms.
Yeah, and those are tangible. How important do you think it is for a legal team to have its distinct values separate from the company values?
The motto,
vision,
the purpose, the
yeah.
vision, yes.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Every team should have a vision, because it's like the North Star where you can cling to, and where everybody should realize that that's really important for us, and that's how we can build on it. I mean, our strategy, we tried to visualize it. I don't know whether you have seen it once. So I didn't want to do tons of slides. So I asked Scriperia to draw it for us. So we have a whole journey on one slide with little icons, and behind every icon is an initiative which a legal function has done. We have also internally, we have Workplace as a company, and we have an initiative which is called We Are, #We Are, and every, I think, 2 weeks or something like that, on the legal side, a team member presents himself or herself, so that we get to know each other. So,
Cool.
I mean, these are the little things.
Yeah, those are little things that make it real, though, and you can enjoy you enjoy the day to day and the fun parts of it.
Yeah, exactly. Or we have #WeDevelop in case there is an initiative we started, or we see a very interesting conference, or we want to share a legal experience with something which is important for the others to know. Then we have the #WeDevelop. We care. So
how did you choose, like, with the network that you're involved in, the European General Counsel network? How there's a lot of networks, a lot of different bodies like that. When in your career did you sort of gravitate towards that, or is it one that in particular?
This is something which I just only joined once I became the General Counsel of Zurich. But what I have done before, when I was still working at Novartis, established in Switzerland. I mean, established, it sounds like whatever, but
Come on.
I know. No.
You did.
But we just started to have once a year a small group of corporate lawyers from different companies, and we met once a year to speak on topics which we thought are important. Because, I think that's maybe the downside of being an in-house lawyer. If you are working for a law firm, you have various clients. You see different stuff outside. You can compare how one client has solved an issue and another one.
Yeah.
But if you're inside, you're just in your bubble a little bit. Yeah. So that's why I think these groups like the European General Counsel Association, or like this quarterly or half-yearly corporate law meeting is really important, because you get into contact with peers and you can then ask them how they do something.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, no, I think it's really important as well, just to network outside and look at the bigger picture sometimes. So,
and it's also fun to meet with people who have similar interests, similar working experience, and to see how they do stuff.
Yeah. And you never know what doors that open and what collaboration there is.
Exactly.
Or it's just, networking. Great. So I'm asking everyone, what's their, being a podcast, you might not be a podcast listener, but a podcast recommendation if you have one, and a book recommend that you'd recommend to someone for reading.
And podcast which I really like is podcast from Adam Grant. It's called Rethinking. It's a whole series. And the one which was I just enjoyed listening to was with the former PepsiCo CEO Indra Nooyi. I really liked this episode. And maybe the reason why I liked this episode was at one point she was speaking about how she started her career at Motorola. And Motorola had their headquarters at the place in Schaumburg, Chicago, where our US business is now located. Right. So I felt the connection. For me, it's always important important to have somehow connections, and that's why I really liked her podcast. For the books, I came with 3 recommendations. One is Rebecca Henderson. It's called Reimagining Capitalism in a World on Fire. It's about sustainability and how important it is to do good, but not outside of the business, but by generating profit. So she is really advocating that business and companies need to integrate sustainability in their business plans, and it needs to become a part of their business, because otherwise it's not functioning. Then another book which I'm reading, I don't have so much time at the moment, so it takes me a long time. But another book which I really like is from Francesca Cartier, and it's called The Cartiers. It's about the jewelry house and how they become a global company starting in Paris. And I think they started before the First World War One. So it's really their journey about becoming a global brand. And the third book is, I for sure get the name of the author wrong. It's Satoshi Yagishawa, I think, and it's called Days in the Mokizawa Bookshop. And it's a Japanese author.
Nice.
And I like Japanese culture a lot. And
is that a fiction or is that?
It's fiction, yes, it's fiction, but it's very calm, very considerate.
Inspired by your trip to
yes,
to
exactly.
Japan. Nice. Well, thank you for sharing those. And you're sort of passionate about jewellery, or an area of interest.
That's an area which I always loved for a long time, and I have a friend who is a jeweler, and sometimes I design something together with her.
Nice.
So that's one of my hobbies.
Creative projects.
Yeah,
nice.
exactly.
Good to have. Well, thank you thanks for sharing your lessons, and we managed to get them together, and the three lessons. It's been great. Thanks for being generous with your time, and
thanks for having me.
Look forward to hearing about the shift in being a business function, a business unit.
Business unit. Leading a legal function as a business unit. That's at least a big goal, but whether we will achieve it, we will see.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Hi, thanks for listening to today's show of Lessons I Learned in Law, the podcast powered by Harriet Brown. I really hope you got some value from it. It's the real reason that I set up the podcast, to help you, our audience of in-house lawyers or people within the legal profession, to learn from others in the industry. At Harriet Brown, we're a legal recruitment business that is driven by a mission to help lawyers find fulfillment in their careers. For us, this extends well beyond the transactional aspect of helping you find a new job or finding hires for your legal team. Where we excel is bringing the best people together and the right people together, which is why community has always been at the heart of our business. We really try to add real value to our network. So to keep up to date with everything going on in our community, make sure you subscribe to Lessons I Learned in Law on your favourite podcast platform. And if you've enjoyed this episode, leave us a review or share it with your friends and colleagues on social media. That would be much appreciated. Take care.